Welcome back, and today I'm going to make sweet potato pie. In a previous video I showed you how to cook the sweet potatoes, so we're going to set that aside and we're going to start right away with the crust. So I'm going to make a butter crust this time, and let's start measuring the ingredients. So I need a stick of butter, which is a half a cup. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a butter knife and just kind of cut it up into little pieces here, like this. So I'm going to add a little bit at a time. So I'm going to cut this up and then have it ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. Now I need 1 cup of flour plus a tablespoon. So a cup and a tablespoon of flour. So in measuring flour, you want to level it off. So I dipped it into the flour, and I have a back of a butter knife. 1. And then I need a tablespoon. And then don't put your flour away yet. I'm going to set this aside because I'm going to need this to put on the cutting board when I roll out the dough. So just set that aside. And then I need 3 tablespoons of water, which I have measured into one of these little measuring cups that have tablespoons on them, which is really comes in handy, or you could just use a measuring spoon. This has saved me a lot of time and grief, because it's way easier just to fill it to the line. All right, so we have our butter, we have our flour, we have our water, and now we just need a dash of salt, which when doing a dash of salt or adding salt to anything, it's a good idea to go ahead and not put it directly over your bowl, to put it in your hand and then put it in like that. You will see in previous videos that I accidentally measured over the bowl. It's not a good idea. I'm trying to break a bad habit. All right, so then we'll just take a fork and just stir things up a little. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of butter at a time. So the only thing you need is the half a cup of butter, which is 1 stick, 3 tablespoons of water, 1 cup of flour plus a tablespoon, and a dash of salt. So easy. So I'll just start with probably two of these tabs of butter, and I'm going to use what they call a pastry blender. If you don't have a pastry blender, a couple of forks will work, but this is a lot more efficient. And also what I like to do is use a bowl that has a wide bottom. That's why I'm not using my regular measuring bowl. I'm just adding the butter as I go along here, because it's easier to blend it. And then the butter does get stuck, and you have to kind of just move it off of here and then continue to blend it. And you have to kind of sometimes push on the sides. And you want the butter to really blend into the flour to the point where it almost looks like cornmeal when you're done. More butter. Hope everybody's having a good day. I am only doing a single batch. I'm only doing 1 pie, so this is a single batch of crust. So if you were doing another pie, let's say apple pie, you would need to do a double because it has a top on it. But sweet potato pie does not have a top on it. Okay, I think I'm just going to add the rest of the butter here. Now sometimes I do a different crust with lard and butter, but today I'm just going to do the butter crust. Both are very delicious. So you can see how it's starting to really blend in pretty well. Use a little bit of mussels for this. Not too bad though. And it gets to the point where a lot of them, little pieces of butter, are little. And you can start just adding a little water at a time. These pastry blenders you could either get at a specialty store or online. I don't really see them in the regular stores that I shop at. We live in a small town and I've never seen one. I had an old one and then my husband ordered me a couple more online just in case the one broke, because they're hard to find at just walking into a store. Now if for some reason you feel that it's not doughy enough and you need to add a little bit more water, you can. I'm just going to see where this takes me because it might be okay. Sometimes it depends on the humidity in your house and everything, depending how much water you need to add. This is just kind of a base. By the way, I have preheated, in case anybody heard, I have preheated my oven to 425 for the sweet potato pie. I think I might need just a tad of water. I'm just going to keep on going and see. If I do, I need the smallest amount. I have to kind of wait till I have it mixed up a little more to know. And my butter was pretty cold, but you don't want to use melted butter either on this. For sure not melt it. You can soften it a little bit on the counter, but not overly. You still want it cold. I feel like it blends better with it a little bit cold. You know what? I don't think I'm going to need to add water. The more I do this, the more moisture is getting into it. So I think I might be fine. And you can tell when it's almost done because it starts not sticking to the sides. So it's getting awfully close. Okay. See, I'm glad I didn't prematurely add the water because I definitely do not need it. So that's good. Okay. So now, I'm just going to get as much, and see how it's not even sticking to the pastry blender at this point. It's just coming off very easily. So I'm going to put this in a ball. So now I have my cutting board out. I have a rolling pin and I have a little bit of flour. And I'm just going to go ahead and rub it on the cutting board. I would recommend, if you have a wooden cutting board, I use plastic cutting boards for other things, but for this sort of thing I prefer wood. And then also put some flour on your hands, and then this is going to be round, so you can kind of start it out somewhat like that already. Oh, and then put some flour for sure generously on your rolling pin as well. I'm going to try to adjust this camera just a tad here. Make sure everybody can see. All right. So now I'm going to roll this out into a circular. Hope everybody's having a good day. So the object is try to keep it round if you can, and try to roll it out as thin as possible. without it breaking. That's where sometimes it could get tricky. But if something breaks, I'll show you how to repair it. It might break when you go to put it into the pie tin. And I prefer glass. I actually have pie tins. When I say pie tin, that's what most people have. I prefer the glass ones. If you watch my channel a lot, you know that I like to use glass a lot on my stuff. But you can definitely use a pie tin, and you can, if you're going to take it to someone's house, they have the disposable pie tins. I think a lot of them have lids on them, so if you want to take this to someone's house, and you know, look for the ones with the lids. That'll make their life easier for transportation. And you don't have to worry about getting your glass pie tin back. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm rolling it like this. And I'm going to put it in here, and then I'm going to roll it out like this. And I have to try to, as much as possible. And this is a very large, deep one. Some people's aren't that big. That's okay. I have all different sizes. This is one of my favorite ones because it has handles. And I take a knife that has like serrated edges, like a steak knife a lot of times. So I need more over here. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this over here and just press. And if it seems like it's not going together well, just wet your fingers a little. And then that'll work. That's why I kind of like to use this butter pie crust over the one with the lard. I feel like it's easier and more pliable to work with. That's just my opinion. That's what I've found over the years, that it's a little bit easier to work with. If you want to find out how to do my lard pie crust, I have a pumpkin pie recipe with the lard crust and a pecan pie recipe with the lard crust. Okay, I got a sharp knife now because I want to, over here, have it. I want the crust obviously on the handles. Just trim this up so it looks nice. Okay, so after doing that, I'll set this aside in case I need it. Like this spot here is slightly thin. I think I'm gonna just thicken it up a little. Okay, so now I'm gonna go around in a circle and just make sure that it is pushed down on the edge, all around the edge. And then I'm going to go over it the same way, like all the way across. Because what you don't want is an air bubble to get up underneath and push everything up. And then I'm also going to take a fork after I do that. Like here's a little spot I didn't like. Okay. With a fork, I'm just going to lightly put little pricks, but not all the way through, just lightly. And then just kind of look at it and think, does that look the way I want it to look? I'm just going to trim off a little here. Okay, so let me see if I can, I'm going to move the camera just so that like maybe you can see a little bit better. Okay. Okay, now it's time to do the filling. So you need a this is all going to get mixed in my blender. So we need to get started and put everything into this type of bowl, not the glass bowl. So I'm trying to think. Okay, I got this. I was just trying to find something handy. So I have 2 cups of sweet potato that has been cooked and pureed into this very smooth consistency like baby food, and you can catch that in another video. And I'm just going to go ahead and put this all in here, scraping the sides. One thing that's nice about this recipe is mostly, other than the eggs, it's all going to go into one container. Okay, I got my sides here. I probably need to get a spoon to get the rest. This sweet potato, it does smell sweet. Okay. And then we need, excuse my reach here, we need some evaporative milk. Not condensed milk, evaporative milk, not regular milk, evaporative milk. So it makes a difference. You want to make sure you get this stuff. And we need 1.5 cups, which is 12 ounces, and this particular can is 12 ounces. So when buying it, make sure you get the right size can. If you can only find the little cans, of course, then you're going to have to measure it out. So, like I said, it's 1.5 cups of milk. And I always go ahead when I have one of these cans is I shake it first. So shake it up, and then I find it's easier to pour, instead of using a traditional can opener, is to use one of these. And I make an indentation on this side and then totally the opposite on this side. And then I pour it in. And for me, that's easier. So whatever you find to be easiest. Everybody has their own preference. Okay. And now we need 1/4 cup of brown sugar. So I have my 1/4 cup out. And I'm going to, I keep my brown sugar in a container like this. It comes in handy. It's easier to measure stuff out. When measuring brown sugar, you want to pack it hard. Like, the best way I could describe it is when you're a kid in the sandbox and you're packing something hard because you want to do like a sand castle. Since this is a small amount, I could show you. See? Like a sand castle. And that's how you want to pack your brown sugar. And then when you put it in here, you just kind of break it up like that. But that's the correct way to measure brown sugar. And now, whoops, something fell. Okay. I'll deal with it later. Oh, now the dogs think they have something. I guess I better go deal with that right now. Right, so now we are going to do the white sugar. Oh, grab that wrong thing. I'm looking for something that's the back of a butter knife that's level, or if you have a spatula, that's great too. So I need 1/2 cup of white sugar. Okay, let's put that over here. And then need a little bit of salt, just a tad. I'm gonna measure it off to the side. Put that in there. And then I need a teaspoon of cinnamon. So what I've done before I started is I got out all my little measuring devices to make things go smooth. So here's a teaspoon, and I need a teaspoon of cinnamon. And I'm going to take the lid to level off the cinnamon like this. I'm going to put it in there. And I need 1/2 teaspoon of ginger. So like I said, I had set my little measures aside so I don't have to go through a whole bunch. 1/2 teaspoon. Okay, so now for the ginger, I'm going to scoop in here. And I'm going to use the lid to level it off. Oops, I'm making a mess. So that's the ginger. It's going in. And then I'm going to put this lid back on here, set this aside, and then I need nutmeg. Sorry for the camera adjustment. I need 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. 1/8 is so tiny. But the nutmeg has a lot of flavor. And I'm just going to level this off. Put it in here. And then if you were going to add allspice, you need 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. I'm not going to add allspice because some allspice has cloves in it, or a relative of cloves, and cloves and me don't get along, and so I am just going to go ahead and not use that ingredient. But like I said, 1/4 teaspoon of allspice if you want allspice. All right, so I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to go grab a couple eggs. One, two, and then just slightly beat the eggs up a little bit, and just put it all in here. So now I have everything for my filling in here. Started. Let's go over the ingredient list. I usually like to do that. So we have the 2 cups of cooked sweet potatoes. We have 12 ounces of evaporative milk, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 1/2 cup of white sugar, a little bit of salt, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of ginger, 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. If you like allspice, you would need 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, and 2 eggs. And the beater that I'm going to use is this one. Okay, you wouldn't want to use a dough hook. That's for cookies and bread. And you wouldn't want to use a wire whisk because that's for egg whites and soft cone. Okay, we're going to scrape down the sides a little. Okay, so I scraped down the sides a little, and now let's run this again. Okay, I'm going to scrape them down again because stuff tends to stick. It's smelling awfully delicious. It's smelling really good already, which is wonderful. Okay. Let's keep on mixing it. Alrighty, let's take a peek and see what we got. Okay, it appears that it's smooth. That's a good thing. Now I'm just going to literally pour this in. Well, first I'm going to check and make sure. Okay, everything looks really smooth. Okay, we're good. I'm going to pour this in and scrape the sides so we get every bit of it in. So this is a big, it's a big pie. So if you have a smaller pie tin, a casserole pie container, whatever everybody wants to call it, you might end up getting 2 pies out of it potentially, or a pie and a little bit more. If you have just extra filling, you can cook it without the shell, you know, without the crust, if you needed to. But then of course you have a crustless pie. But some people, they would prefer that if they have certain health needs. Okay, so here it is. So now I'm going to go ahead and put this in the oven. It's been preheating at 425. I'm going to put it in there for 15 minutes at 425. Then I'm going to reduce the heat to 350. So the 15 minutes and then another roughly 45 minutes on 350. So I'm going to get this in there and we will check in 15 minutes. Okay, so it has been 15 minutes. Let's just peek and see what everything's looking like here. So it's getting bigger, kind of. It's looking good. So now we are going to go ahead and reduce the heat to, let me check my notes, 350 for around 45 minutes, but I'll keep a really close eye on it. The timer went off. Let's check it and see if we're ready yet. I'm gonna kind of pull this out a little bit. And it's awfully close. Now, notice it's a different color than a pumpkin pie, obviously. Now, I'm just gonna kind of see if this will jiggle. It doesn't jiggle, but I kind of feel like there's a little bit of moisture there. I think I'm going to give it about another 3 to 5 minutes. So we'll check back soon. Okay, so I pulled the pie. The house smells absolutely wonderful. Let me just show you what it looks like. And there it is. Let me kind of tilt it a little. All right, it is ready. So, in order to eat it, and we are going to taste test it tonight. I'm going to taste test it, and I'll share it with the family. Also, it does need to cool down. So, I don't know if it'll be an hour or 2 hours, but I know it's going to be hard to wait, but you can't eat it hot. So, you can eat it kind of room temperature, but you don't want to like burn your mouth for sure. So, I will see you in a little bit for the taste test. I have to use my willpower and just wait till it cools down. But the house smells wonderful. It's kind of cool out, so I'm going to just kind of open up the oven for a few minutes, let the heat from the oven heat the house and put all the smells into the air. It's better than any candle you can buy, that's for sure. See you soon for the taste test. Okay, now for my favorite part, the taste test. I want you to see how this kind of came out here. Without me having it slip. Just see how the crust came out. Okay. I've been waiting hours for this to cool down. Absolutely delicious. Very smooth. Spices just right, and the crust very buttery and flaky. I'm going to show you again how flaky that crust is. I'm just going to do a little bit of the end here. Oops. Let me show you. Super flaky crust. Some people don't like to eat the crust on a pie, but I guarantee if you make this pie crust, your friends and yourself will be gobbling it down because it is buttery and delicious. I hope you enjoyed this video. For those of you who subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And please like this video, and if you don't subscribe, I hope you do. It is free. Have a great evening. Thanks for watching.